However, it seems as if for the past 3 years nearly, the LAPD has likely been harassing people for simple possession of magazines which are not currently illegal to possess. So we got 2 letters that I really want to talk to you about today coming from the California Attorney General's office and the LA County Sheriff's Department, potentially the LAPD. Seems a little muddy about who specifically is sending these letters out, but it is a very important one. It's regarding the recent data breach from the Attorney General and high capacity or standard capacity magazines in the state of California from the LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department. So before we get going though, I do want to say thank you to everyone that supports this channel. You can use any of the links down in the description to help me out, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Double check, make sure you are subscribed. A lot of people lately have been saying that they have been unsubscribed. I know you might be saying that's never happened to me, but it's happened to a lot of people. So the California Attorney General's office is sending letters out regarding people who were affected by the recent data breach when it comes to the CCW applicant, CCW holder list that was leaked. Now, if you're not aware of what's going on with that, the California Attorney General's office, they put out a little website that was supposed to be a little infographic, a little bit of information so that people could make better decisions and learn more about statistics when it comes to gun ownership, CCW, permit holder status, what kinds of people, what race, age, gender, that kind of thing. Now, apparently, and I saw this firsthand, there was a little drop-down menu. You could click a little button that would show all the data in a Excel or CSV list. I'm not exactly sure the right way to word that. And it initially just said race, age, gender, occupation, and status of the permit, whether it was rejected, denied, renewed, it lapsed, that kind of thing. Now, there was a little checkbox up top that if you clicked it, what said show additional rows. And then it would show every single person's name, address, driver's license number, and all of their other personal identifying information. If you ever applied at all for a CCW, it had your information. Now, fortunately for me specifically, the information that they had was old and I no longer live at that address. That's very good for me. A lot of people were not so lucky. Now, in addition to that, if someone had applied for any sort of firearm ownership, so a DROS or a assault weapon registration, their information could be cross-referenced with their personal identifying information to determine what guns you own. Now, it could be mixed up. Let's say if you are a white male born on a very common day in a very populated area, there might be other people that have similar basic information that they could run amok with. When I used my information, I was able to see a list of every single gun I owned and then a few others that I never purchased, but apparently some other white dude that was born on February 19th also purchased those same guns or some other guns. People that were affected were sent a letter by the California Attorney General saying, hey, don't worry, none of your financial records, your bank information was not stolen, your social security number was not leaked, don't worry. Now, because we fucked up, and this is the second time that me personally have been affected by a California Attorney General data breach, they offered the same thing they offered me last time and any other person that was affected. They sent a letter saying, hey, we are going to be giving you a free voucher for credit monitoring services. Which you might be wondering, I'm not worried about my credit information. I'm worried about my personal safety because people now know my address and that I own guns. Well, here's where it gets worse. If you choose to accept that offer from the DOJ, you waive your rights to participate in any sort of lawsuit against the government. Yep. If you accept the offer that they are giving you, you have to accept that you will not sue them and not participate in any sort of class action lawsuit like has been filed with the NAGR and like will be filed with the California Rifle and Pistol Association and Michelle and Associates. I'm not entirely sure as of today's date if Michelle and Associates and the CRPA have filed that lawsuit just yet, but I know that those are the people that you're going to want to back with this. They have a track record for winning in the state of California. They're the reasons we have these standard capacity magazines in the first place. The CRPA and the NRA backed that lawsuit with Michelle and Associates, so it's very cool to see them participating in another lawsuit. So, if you applied for a CCW and you did get a letter that you were affected by that data breach, please reconsider accepting the offer from the DOJ. Now, let's talk about the magazine issue with the LAPD and LA Sheriff's Department. Now, I'm getting reports from people in the LAPD and potentially in the LA Sheriff's Department that are receiving a letter that was sent out by some figureheads in their organization. I don't know if it was from the chief. It seems like various people got it from various people. So depending on where you work in the LAPD, you got it from a different person. This letter that was sent out said that people who are currently in possession of standard capacity magazines that are over 10 rounds should not be charged and should not be investigated or prosecuted in any way against for the possession of standard capacity magazines because it's not illegal currently. Now, they specifically reference the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin decision and how the Supreme Court sent back Duncan v. Bonta, the magazine ban case. Now, quick refresher. The Honorable Judge Roger T. Benitez in the district court granted a preliminary injunction from the enforcement of the possession ban on these magazines. He then put a stay on it, which gave us Freedom Week, where people were able to possess these mags. He said that until the end of this entire court case, basically, this stay that would basically allow people to currently possess these if they legally acquired them during Freedom Week, they could continue to possess them until that stay was lifted. Now, that went to the Ninth Circuit. It was ruled unconstitutional. The Ninth Circuit then heard it en banc with a 9-judge panel, or 11-judge panel, I believe, and that was ruled constitutional. Don't fret. It was then appealed to the Supreme Court. All the while, the possession was still legal. Supreme Court then said, hey, you guys need to use the text and history and tradition test to determine whether or not this is constitutional or not. Redecide. They sent that back down to the Ninth Circuit. We're now waiting on that decision to determine where it's going to go from there. Currently, and this whole time since 2019, possession of magazines by people who are not prohibited persons has and continues to be legal. The Attorney General's office sent out a letter in 2019 to every law enforcement department saying, hey, do not mess with people just for possession of these magazines because it's not illegal currently. Apparently that wasn't clear enough because now, years later, in the year of 2022, the LAPD is having to send out letters to all of their people who work for the department, even just civilians that work for the police department. They're sending out letters saying, do not investigate, do not charge, do not arrest people for the possession. This should have been clear. This should have been obvious. This should have been settled back in 2019 when the Attorney General's office made it very clear to them that they shouldn't be. However, it seems as if for the past 3 years nearly, the LAPD has likely been harassing people for simple possession of magazines which are not currently illegal to possess. Now, the Second Amendment guarantees your right to keep and bear arms, and how do you use those arms without the ammunition feeding devices necessary for that? So these should not be illegal in the first place. So I'm curious, have you known someone that has been harassed in the LA County area or just in general because of possession of these mags? We know people like Fang Yang, who was harassed by the police department for simple possession of one 15-round Beretta magazine. Now, he was let off, and his lawyer used Freedom Week as the defense for getting him off, but he still had to deal with the courts. He still had to get arrested. I'm sure his life was affected very negatively. If you know someone or you know of someone that has been negatively affected by this, please let me know. Let me know what their story is. I would love to know more about that. But it seems like currently the LAPD is finally coming to terms with the fact that they cannot harass people for possession of the same items that their officers are in possession of. Because I guarantee you that the LAPD is not walking around with 10-round mags. They're probably walking around with 15, 17, 30-round mags, depending on what type of firearm. But if you, as a private citizen, wanted the same means to protect yourself as the cop that's arresting you, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Go directly to jail. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.